Deep in the mosquito villages of Central America, a teenage girl suddenly drops to the ground. When she gets up, she starts sprinting through the jungle, swinging wildly at enemies nobody else can see. Within days, another girl in the village exhibits the exact same terrifying symptoms. Then another. The behavior cascades through the community, perfectly mimicking the spread of a highly contagious, aggressive virus. Western medical teams arrive to hunt for the pathogen. They draw blood from the victims, test the local water supply, and screen the surrounding environment for biological agents or hidden toxins. But the extensive toxicology and environmental reports come back completely clean. There is zero trace of any biological, chemical, or viral cause for the epidemic. This is a documented outbreak of Grisi sickness, an intense manifestation of mass psychogenic illness. It occurs when collective stress becomes so overwhelming that the mind generates real, contagious physical symptoms to express the pain. Outbreaks like this require a specific environment. The first ingredient is a closed, rigidly structured community where members live or work in constant proximity, like a village, a factory, or a school. The second is a severe underlying psychological stressor weighing on that group. For the mosquito people, this meant enduring extreme poverty, which was recently compounded by the catastrophic devastation of Hurricane Felix. Once those conditions are met, the illness requires an index case to ignite. A single person displays the physical symptoms, and the condition spreads to others purely through visual mimicry, jumping from person to person along a direct line of sight. The burden of that shared trauma propagates through the community exactly like a flu virus. Instead of exploiting a weakness in the immune system, it exploits the brain's drive to give an invisible burden a physical form. When a mind is buckling under extreme, invisible stress, it searches for a way to make that pain visible to the community. To do that, it requires a recognized cultural script, a language of symptoms that the surrounding society already understands. Because that script depends on local beliefs, the physical symptoms change drastically based on the anxieties of the host society. Take Belgium in the summer of 1999. 10 secondary school children drank Coca-Cola, reported a strange chemical smell, and were suddenly rushed to the hospital with severe nausea, dizziness, and respiratory failure. The outbreak quickly spread to 4 other schools. In this case, the pressure came from a different direction. Belgium was currently in the grip of a massive national panic over dioxin contamination in meat and dairy products. Independent laboratories analyzed beverages from multiple plants. Testing found zero toxicological evidence capable of causing the severe physical symptoms. Health authorities concluded the children's physical illness was entirely real. Investigators pointed toward the era's suffocating cultural fear of chemical contamination. The underlying mechanics of mass psychogenic illness are universal, but the outward symptoms are always tailored to perfectly mirror the specific environmental or technological fears of that specific culture. While modern European anxieties mapped onto toxic chemicals, the mosquito people draw from a cultural script heavily rooted in animism, magic, and the presence of evil spirits. Sociologists call this the supernatural folkloresque. Folklore acts as a plausibility structure, providing a shared vocabulary to process overwhelming trauma. In a purely naturalistic world, the mind struggles to find a framework for emotional pain. Borrowing from local myths gives that pain a recognizable shape. We see this same pattern throughout history. During the Salem witch trials, a community suffocating under Puritan religious anxiety and crop failures experienced fits of demonic possession, a recognized script for their distress. Centuries earlier, during the dancing plagues of Europe, populations trapped in rigid social roles and starvation manifested their trauma through uncontrollable, days-long physical movement. Whether a society fears witches, toxic chemicals, or evil spirits, the subconscious brain is remarkably consistent. It selects a monster that the community already believes is real. This creates a frustrating medical paradox for conditions like Grisi sickness. Modern Western medicine arrives with sedatives and clinical psychiatric evaluations and almost universally fails to cure the victims. Yet, traditional mosquito healers, using organic vapor baths, herbal teas, and elaborate spiritual rituals, frequently succeed in resolving the epidemic. The success of these traditional methods stems from a psychological necessity. A treatment must acknowledge the patient's cultural reality to be effective. The cure must carry the vernacular authority of the community and speak the exact same folkloric language as the disease itself. Resolving the underlying psychological crisis requires validating the community's cultural experience of the illness. In these contexts, the traditional ritual is the mandatory medical requirement. Because these outbreaks have no biological pathogen, victims often face a damaging societal stigma, the assumption that they are simply faking it for attention. But the physical symptoms, from violent convulsions to respiratory failure and total amnesia, are entirely real. This is the human mind successfully hacking its own physical hardware. Anthropologists like Shlomo Ariel suggest these outbreaks often function as a safety valve. They provide a community with a way to express distress when normal institutions and communication methods have completely failed them. The epidemic acts as a drastic, subconscious measure that forces the broader society to finally stop and acknowledge an unbearable shared trauma. Viewed through this lens, the symptoms represent a logical physical alarm bell, a signal that a society's invisible burdens have finally surpassed their breaking point.